Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It is Mike Brown here with Remax in Toronto. Well, today I'm going to talk a little bit about the fact that the Toronto Real Estate Board has recently reported that we had a slight uptick in sales in June compared to the month of May. Is that signaling a recovery for the real estate market? I don't really think so. Given that I consider myself experienced and moderate, I think it's important that we try and interpret some of this information and not allow it to force us off the rails, so to speak.
Little off course here.
Yes, there were a few more sales in June than there were in May, but I don't think it's signaling that there's been a vast improvement to market sentiment. And if you follow me on this channel, I have this acronym that I call ADLIVs, which is average daily listing inventory versus sales. I believe that's a much more accurate number to take a look at when you're thinking about buying or selling a piece of real estate, because it really tells you what the feeling is, boots on the ground in the market. Real Estate Board is saying more sales in June versus May. Well, what they're forgetting, or what they're not reporting about, is we had a dramatic increase in inventory right up until pretty much the end of June as well. We hit record numbers, as I've been reporting on this channel. So the ADLIVs number to me is going to give a buyer and a seller a feeling of what the percentage of success will be if you have your house on the market. And the numbers did, again, fall for the month of June versus the month of May. And how much did they fall? Well, Durham region was selling at 33% for the month of May, and it dropped down to 28%. Halton region has fallen from 28% to 24%. Peel region has fallen from 20% to 18%. Toronto has dropped from 29 to 27, and York has fallen from 19 to 7. So the freehold areas that I cover are all experiencing 4 or 2% decline as far as the volume of sales versus the volume of the inventory on a daily basis. The only market that held its own, surprisingly enough, was the condo market, which is coming in again at 13%. So it's basically telling you that 13 out of every 100 condos that's listed for sale during that reporting period is selling. Now, to further tighten up these numbers, because some months have 30 days, some have 31, and of course, February has 28. I've decided I'm going to shift this to just reporting every 4 weeks. It's going to be easier for me because I can just combine 2 sets of 2 weeks numbers to give you that number. So there'll be 13 reporting periods moving forward. The first one will be July 1st to July 28th. We are now at a point where we've reached peak inventory, and it's starting to draw down, as the title of the video has said, and I suspect it will continue to do so through the summer months until the beginning of September. So let's take a look at that inventory story, and when we get back, I'd like to talk about 2 or 3 things that I think are important to elaborate on, given that I consider myself a moderate and I'm not pumping FOMO, and I'm not pumping that the market's the bottom's gonna fall out of the market. And we'll get right back to that shortly. So the first thing I want to talk about, and it's sort of further to this increased volume of sales from May to June, and that is, how do we go about determining what the trend in pricing actually is? Because there's 3 things that we follow. We follow average, median, and benchmark. And a few months ago, I was pretty clear in stating that I think if you're the average consumer, buyer, seller of a home in this country, and when I mean the average person, I mean, families and what have you, following that benchmark price is really what you want to know about to get give yourself an idea of how the market is trending. And the fact of the matter is the benchmark price has been falling pretty consistently now for 12 or 13 months. And I think the sentiment on the street from most realtors and industry insiders is that it's clearly a buyer's market. Well, I think it's been a buyer's market for some time. It really just depends on whether or not you're entering into the market as a buyer or a seller and you have the information that you need. The average median can throw you off. There's going to be some really high sales in the Toronto area on a month-by-month basis, sometimes even over 10 million. So that's going to skew average and median. And let's not forget that people who have deep pockets and are insulated from recession, or they have, generational money, they're the top 0.5% income earners in the country, they're not being affected by all these other things that most of the average people who are considering buying or selling a home are thinking of. So they're kind of filling their hat right now while they can, and that can skew those two numbers, which is why I believe, again, follow the benchmark if you want to know the trend of the market. The other thing that I think can be deceptive is the percentage of asking price versus sale that people are getting for their house. And they're reporting currently that's around 99% in the GTHA, which is going to lead a lot of sellers to believe that the prices haven't fallen and that, you can ask whatever you want, you pretty much get it. But that's not really the truth, because what they're not factoring in is that there still is a substantial number of listings that come to the market priced for multiple offer that will sell for 5, 10, 15, 20, sometimes 35% over the asking price, which I believe is going to skew that number. So that really doesn't mean anything to anybody, at least as far as I can see. I still suggest to a seller that you cast a broad net if you want to sell your house. At the very least, you're going to find the value of your property in this day as a reference point. It might not be enough for you to sell it, but you're going to know. So that's still being employed by many experienced realtors. Is it 1 in 4, probably 1 in 4, 1 in 3 in the GTA, I would say, are doing it and being successful at it. So the percentage of sale to asking, that doesn't really tell you where the market's going. And the final thing I want to talk about is all the internet realtors. And for better or for worse, I've become an internet realtor. I've been producing this channel for 2 years. But again, as I said at the beginning of the episode, I consider myself moderate and experienced. I'm not trying to interpret news to be able to persuade anybody to do one thing or another. I'm just trying to give you the news that I would follow as a professional, and if I'm going to participate in buying or selling a piece of real estate. So I don't believe that the doomsayers who are out there getting massive views, sponsorship, subscribers, comments, and all the rest of it are really experienced realtors. They're trying to get your attention. I don't think that the market or the bottom of the market is falling out. I do think there's some downward pressure. And obviously there's issues outside of this micro market that I work in and the macro market of the country even that can affect that. But I don't believe the bottom's falling out. And by the same token, I don't think you have to have any fear of missing out right now. I don't see a trend that's going to reverse this and all of a sudden start a very rapid escalation of prices. So, long story short, hopefully these ad-liv numbers and the inventory numbers are going to give you some insight into the trends in the market. And until the next episode, this is Mike Brown with RE/MAX, trying to uncover the real estate of real estate here in the GTA and Southwestern Ontario.